It's the Security Weekly News, and it's episode 439 in this, the last week before the holidays in the United States. It is Friday, the 20th of December. Welcome to the show. We've got Dysentery, TP-Link, Piracy, calendar scams, Tencent, TikTok, Aaran Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. If your organization is ready to enhance cyber resilience, we have important insights for you. The Level Blue Futures Report 2024 sheds light on how rapid computing changes affect IT visibility. Our research reveals that while IT leaders see positive outcomes, 85% acknowledge increased risk. In this report, we identify the barriers to cyber resilience, the challenges impacting cybersecurity, and the business context that reveal operational issues. You'll also discover what's on the horizon and 5 essential steps for prioritizing cyber resilience. Get your complimentary copy of this crucial research today. Visit securityweekly.com/levelblue. Cybersecurity simplified. ThreatLocker implements a least privileged approach to cybersecurity, blocking every executable unless specifically authorized by your team. This methodology mitigates ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, and ensures 24/7, 365.25 protection for your organization. To learn more about how ThreatLocker can help prevent known and unknown threats in your digital environment, safeguard your data and operations from threat actors, and align your organization with respected compliance frameworks, visit securityweekly.com/threatlocker. All right, from the island of Elba, it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White. Hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment, or I will show up at your house next week and try to climb down the chimney, but most likely just fall off the roof, throw an empty gin bottle through your front window, and then pass out in the snow. Be kind. Well, the U.S. government is, among other things, is considering banning TP-Link routers, which, if you aren't familiar with them, but you probably are common. Soho, that's a small office, home office brand that you see just about everywhere. And they're planning to do this starting next year, depending on the outcome of studies to determine how much of a national security risk the low-cost routers actually bring. I mean, when I first read that, I was like, what? National security? Like, what? But the U.S. departments, notice it's plural, of Justice, Commerce, and Defense, among others, are all examining the issue, and one Commerce Department office has already subpoenaed the company. Somebody cut somebody off in traffic. But TP-Link, if you don't know, has about 65% of the market share of American SOHO networks. I was like, really? But here's how they did it. They sell their devices for less than a manufacturing price. So this is called a loss leader in the business literature. But loss leaders should be temporary, but they basically trying to catch, which, that's bad news too. But that's actually illegal in the United States and is being investigated by the Department of Justice as well. So this sounds like one of those things where some senator was like, I want a free router. And they were like, no, sir, we don't do that. And they went, all right. You'll see, we're investigating you. Actually, it does sound problematic. But over 300 of the United States-based ISPs are issuing TP-Link devices as their default internet routers for home users. And guess what? These things are also used for some wacky reason by the Department of Defense, NASA, and the DEA. That's the Drug Enforcement Administration. Like, okay, we have like secret stuff. Let's use the cheapest garbage we can buy down at the store. Like, I was like, you're kidding me. NASA's using TP-Link? Really? Of course, look at the price. This thing's being sold for below cost, and Cisco's not cheap, nor is Palo Alto or Extreme or anybody else. Now, I don't use them because years ago I bought a couple for people, and they're pieces of junk. and their customer service is about what you would expect, which is nobody answers the phone. But a lot of people use them, and apparently a lot of ISPs are putting them in people's homes, whether they know it or not. No telling how many are actually rebranded too. They're just like in a black box or something. Microsoft reported in October that a botnet called Quad 7, amongst other things, and is operated by Chinese attackers, and the botnet is mostly made up of TP-Link devices. So these devices were used. I guess they had some kind of compromise. There was an exploit for them, and the devices were then used in password spraying attacks to get credentials, which were then used by other Chinese groups to exploit networks. Chinese groups cooperating? No. But you probably don't want these things at all, but you definitely don't want them in your office or, say, in the nuclear missile storage facility or the space shuttle or, yeah. So I'm pretty much a fan of the ban. I'm not a big ban fan, but in this case, maybe it's validated. Ah, matey, piracy, the good old days. Running up the old Jolly Roger and streaming out video. I mean, I worked this case once involving this thing called Pornster, which was basically a porn distribution network. It was like Napster, if you've ever heard of that. And people basically contributed pornography, I guess they had purchased or downloaded. And then this thing made it available for you to download it as well. And we got called in on this case. And we found terabytes of porn on a university server that was being distributed. The guy who managed the server did not really know what was happening. And when I was meeting with him, he was like, well, we got concerned because all of our hard drives kept filling up and they shouldn't have. And we just keep adding drives, but we're running out of money. And and we went and looked at it. I was like, did you mean to store terabytes of pornography? I know terabytes aren't that much now, but this was like 25 years ago. Well, the Alliance for Creativity and Entertainment, which is called ACE, you may have seen that on, films and things. They've taken down one of the world's largest live sports streaming piracy sites. They had 821 million visits last year. So the site primarily targeted audiences in the United States and Canada with illegal live streaming of sporting events from just about every category you can imagine. So you want to check out this ball game? Hey, there it is. So the operator of the site is based at Hanoi, which is in Vietnam, and it resulted in the surrender of 138 domains, which included, so maybe you've seen some of these, bestsolaris.com, streameast.to, markystreams.com, crackstreams.dev, and weakspell.to. All of these, of course, are basically linked back to the same place. And of course, just as a quick caution, and you may want to put out a missive about this to your employees and people, remember, when you're downloading illegal stuff, you often get a lot of malware along with it because, people don't tend to be as cautious when they're like, ooh, I could download this illegal copy of Antares Harmonizer to fiddle around with. Oh, wait, is that all Russian malware? Maybe not. But ACE has been targeting piracy around the world as they do, and they have taken down OpenLoad, Streamango, Beast IPTV, 123 Movies, and Zorro in recent years. So all of these are illegal sites where you can download all kinds of content. So hang on while I write all these down. They're all down now, although there's new ones. So if you, and of course there will be more new ones really soon. So if you really wanted to see the big game without paying for it, well, your options just became a little more limited temporarily. Although my uncle could climb up the pole outside your apartment and bypass something or other, so you can watch Showtime Spice or whatever it's called. He only got electrocuted a few times, 3, I think, and he lived every time. Really, he did. He was electrocuted and set on fire and all kinds of stuff. He was an interesting guy. All right, calendar invites. We all love getting those, right? Like, and rejecting them or accepting them and then not going or maybe going but watching a movie with the camera off, or maybe going to the meeting and then playing the guitar with headphones on and not realizing that Russ could turn your camera on during the middle of the meeting and go, just as a demonstration, you can flip a student's camera on. I'm going to tell you right now, don't flip people's cameras on. That is really bad. I saw an example where somebody flipped on all their students' cameras and like, a couple of students were in various stages of undress. Yeah, people don't think about that camera, but yeah, it's there. But anyway, Checkpoint said that some of these invites are now being used for phishing attacks. So essentially what happens is you get a very typical looking Google Calendar invite, just like the ones you get multiple times all day. I have a couple sitting here right now. And when you click on the link that looks like an invite, well, it steals your data. Now, some of them had attachments, which are like download the appointment, and then you click that. And of course, that also caused a problem. But basically, the link or the download steals your data as much as it can, scrape off your system. And then that is used to try to log into other apps that you have on your system. And it pushes all that information. And because you have the same password on, mybank.com that you used on Streamango, you got a big problem. So don't use the same passwords, of course. It's pretty easy to spoof a fake Google Calendar invite because you have some to use as a template. And then all you got to do is just change the links around, right? And it becomes a bit of a problem. And people click these things automatically when they come in from your boss or your school or your whatever. And yeah, they mod the headers so that it looks like it was sent via Google Calendar on behalf of somebody legit, like say the CEO. I need to speak with you in person. Click here. It's nothing new. I mean, really, but you might want to remind all your people that even a trusted looking link may be a problem. And the advice that was given by this article is to enable an option, which I have enabled, called known senders. So if you turn that on in Google and you get a Google Calendar invite and it's someone who's either not in your contact list or not someone you've exchanged email with before, it at least alerts you. Now, they did not say if that known senders option would catch these with the spoofed address headers, though, but it's something. So this holiday season, be paranoid. That guy coming down the chimney is probably a thug. Shoot first. Actually, don't do that. You might shoot, one of your family members. I've seen a case like that. The United States Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is called CISA, and I was told not to call it CISA by a CISA employee. CISA issued a binding operational directive which orders federal civilian agencies to implement CISA's secure cloud practices for Microsoft 365 environments. Now, Microsoft 365 is the Office environment that is in the cloud if you don't run that locally, and a lot of people don't. They are now requiring, they being CISA, that you identify specific cloud tenants that you are using, implement CISA's assessment tools, and align your cloud environments to the CISA Secure Cloud Business App Secure Configuration baselines. So if you are a civilian federal agency, you are required to comply with this. Now, I mean, even if CISA can't tell you what to do, this is pretty good advice if you're using these cloud-based systems, because how many times have you read or we reported an attack that was based on an unsecured bit bucket and somebody grabbed all the company information and on and on and on. And this stuff is used for phishing. It's used for exploits. It's used to penetrate your organization and so forth. CISA said they will follow this up with similar recommendations for Google Workspace and other cloud-based systems early next year. So even if you're already sitting there being smug and saying, hey, Doug, I don't use Microsoft 365, you probably use something. And if you are subject to CISA or not, you will probably need to be in compliance by next year. CISA said that recent incidents highlighted the risks posed by misconfigurations and weak security controls in cloud environments. So I would advise you, even if CISA is not your supervisor, that you might still want to look this over. A recent campaign targeted about 20,000 users across the automotive, chemical, and industrial compound manufacturing sectors in Europe. That's hard to say. And where they were trying to get access to the target's Azure cloud infrastructure. So again, similar kinds of stuff. After taking over the accounts, they basically signed into the cloud then with a new device using the stolen cred so that they could maintain access. So they went ahead and, the minute they got a credential, they logged in with another phone that had those stolen credentials on it, and then they could basically maintain access thereafter. Palo Alto Unit 42 spotted this one and said it peaked back in June, but was still very active in September. They found both Ukrainian and Russian language websites linked to the attack, but said they couldn't actually determine what the goal of the attacks were nor who was doing it. I mean, it's a classic, right? I mean, you get in, you maintain persistence that they don't know about, and you've got to weigh in all the time. In this particular case, they sent out a DocuSign enabled PDF or an HTML link, which directed the victim to a malicious HubSpot free form builder. So basically, what it looked like was that you needed to sign something, and so they set these up with spear phishing. And then basically, while all this was going on, a Microsoft login page, you know, that thing that pops up legitimately a lot, pops up. It's fake. You log in with your Microsoft credentials, and now they've got access to Azure. Yeah, I mean, this stuff is so common, and you know, you really need to get your people on board with this. And I really wish we could find a way around this Microsoft login thing. I mean, I get this all the time because a lot of people use this as a single sign-on, you know, point, and it's just terrifying that somebody's going to get those credentials, and it's really, really easy to create these fake pop-ups. I've made a couple of them, not for illicit purposes, just for my own amusement. But most of the infrastructure that was involved in this particular attack had been taken offline by the time they started the investigation. But it's worth noting, it works, and it will keep working, and it will be working in the future. So be paranoid. Tencent. We all know Tencent, right? It's a video company that is often controversial. It's a Chinese company. They make games, they make apps, they make all kinds of stuff. And now they're releasing Hunyuan Video. This is a new open source at-home AI generated video tool that promises to be uncensored. That means you want to know how to make meth? Ask away. Want to make a porn video that's customized to your specific interests? Go crazy. This week alone, Sora, Pika 2, VO2, and Video 01 Live all came out promising new capabilities in video AI development, but theirs have restrictions around what you can do. But Tencent openly distributed neural net, they have open distributed neural network weights, which means you can tweak this thing to your heart's consent, and you can run it locally if you have enough horsepower and video cards to actually do it. They will allow the creation of pornography and nudity in any way you wish to consume it. And I mean, part of me is like, okay, I mean, if it's just for your use, well, all right. But, if that's not where that's going to stop, right? I mean, according to the reviewer, the current videos that were generated, and they had a whole pile of examples in this article, and they're not pornographic, so you can look at them, but they were just testing the creation of things. They weren't great, but that gets better. And of course, people who want to do nudity with AI, they're going to do nudity with AI. I got news for you. That's going to happen. That is here. And according to the article, bespoke pornography is already starting to appear on Reddit. I mean, I think in the not very distant future, there's going to be all kinds of AI generated, we've talked about deep fakes before. I think there's going to be a lot of AI generated pornography that will probably, if you think you've seen it all, will probably make you realize the human race is most likely doomed. And unless pornography can somehow be used to fuel the future, in which case we'll probably be fine. But otherwise, yeah, I think it's over. And speaking of Chinese companies, TikTok, everyone's favorite. TikTok's asking the U.S. Supreme Court to block a law that would ban TikTok in the United States in a few weeks. Now, this law got passed earlier this year because of the children. TikTok is claiming that this new law violates their First Amendment rights. And of course, we've often in the United States said corporations are people somehow. But they also claim that it violates the First Amendment right of 170 million American users of TikTok. Now, TikTok, of course, is controlled by a Chinese company, and the law basically says that TikTok either has to sell controlling interest in the company to an American. Gee, that sounds like a reasonable law. I wonder which billionaire is wanting to buy TikTok. But basically, TikTok said we need more time to appeal this before the law kicks in. Now, I'm not a fan of censorship of any sort, and I'm not a fan of billionaires getting to dictate what we all get to do. But our government loves it when they love it, and they love censorship when they love censorship. Now, when they're getting censored, they don't like it. So if you tell them they can't say what they want to say, or you tell some billionaires they can't say what they want to say, all of a sudden censorship is the worst thing ever. But if the censorship is directed at protecting billionaires or the government, oh, baby, they're all over that. So I don't know. For the children, but it's a big mess. I mean, and it's really hard to evaluate. I mean, TikTok's everywhere, and if you ban it, well, CotKit will just pop up the week after, and then they'll have to ban that. And then Mr. Fufu's magic video site will pop up to replace KitKat. And eventually, I guess 7 years will pass and TikTok will be back. Or a shell company of a shell company of a shell company called Augustus de Morgan Limited will buy TikTok and claim to be based in Dover, Delaware, and it'll still just be rolling along. Now, the current court really, really believes in the First Amendment, but only when it comes to things they like and that their political allies like. But we'll see if they support it here. I mean, I don't know how I feel. I hate censorship of any type, and I don't think it works. I mean, protecting kids has been a thing since I was a kid, and they were banning comic books and video games. And guess what? I still read those comic books. I still read all the banned Kurt Vonnegut books at my school, and I played all those video games. In fact, the more they told me they were banned, the more I wanted to play them, and so forth. So will it work? I don't think so. But mostly it's just a waste of time and money, and it's trying to I'm so cynical, sorry. Well, when he's not flying around the globe delivering toys to tots and climbing down chimneys, he's here with us. It's Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaran.
Hey, Doug. My daughter says regularly she wishes that I'd let my beard and hair go gray and I was Santa Claus.
You can be our Santa Claus anytime. We don't have Jack anymore. I mean, he already had the gray hair and the gray beard and was a great Santa. Although he was sort of the morose Santa.
Yeah. Slim,
I guess so.
Toned, fit.
We miss you, Jack.
Definitely miss Jack. I'll never forget B-sides in 2018.
Oh my God!
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
Yeah, we should know that that's still banned. It's still
what happens
banned
in Vegas stays in Vegas and all that.
International law.
Okay, straight in there. It's a big one. Today's article is from Wired, which is a great publication, and the article is titled, and I love this, it's like stuff that I've been reading all year. A new phone scanner that detects spyware has already found 7 Pegasus infections. So the mobile device security firm iVerify has been offering a tool since May that makes spyware scanning accessible to anyone, and it's already turning up victims. Well, 7 when this was written. So while researching the story this morning, obviously I paid the 99 cents and immediately downloaded the app because as someone who resets their phone on the daily, do you? Well, if I remember. And I'm always thinking who is watching my phone when it's running hotter than the sun, which considering London's like single digits less temperature, I don't know why my phone always runs hotter than the sun. This tool for me could not have come fast enough. But there'll be more about the findings later because as I was writing this article 9 hours ago or whenever it was, I sent off the analysis. Worthy a note then when I was writing this, the analysis I sent off the iVerify was 350 megs. And when I looked where they stored it, there was already a file on my phone with the same name, only the date was November. What's going on there, guys? But also, iVerify claim that they will get the analysis back to you in a few hours. That's probably before this article come out, if I'm being kind. So after all that and me feeling more hacked than normal, back to the article. Okay, so the article. In recent years, commercial spyware has been deployed by more actors against a wider variety of victims. It has been difficult to check devices for infection, well, more or less impossible if you're just a normal person, making it necessary for individuals to rely on academic institutions, maybe Doug can do it, and NGOs for forensic techniques. iVerify is publishing findings from the spyware detection feature. It launched in May. So at this time, they'd done 2,500 device scans had been submitted, and 7 of them, to be fair, had revealed infections by the NSO group malware known as Pegasus. More about that now. So if you've not read the book Pegasus, The Story of the World's Most Dangerous Spyware by Laurent Richard and Sandrine Rigard, I highly recommend it. It's one of the most interesting cyber books that I've read, and I've literally read hundreds of them. A little bit about the book. So it gives a story behind Pegasus, which it says is a sophisticated an invasive security tool created, obviously, by NSO Group, who are an Israeli company all about the cash. While NSO Group claims Pegasus is used to combat terrorism and crime, of course it is, the book reveals how it has also been deployed to spy on a wide range of individuals, including heads of states, diplomats, human rights defenders, political opponents, and journalists. The authors provide detailed account of global investigation that uncovered the extensive misuse of the spyware and implications for privacy, freedom of the press, democracy, all that cool stuff. A few notable examples, and do you know what? Read this book and like your eyes will peel back. It's pretty damn scary. Jamal Khashoggi, a Saudi journalist and the critic of the Saudi government. I wouldn't criticize the Saudi government. They were murdered in 2018, and it was revealed that Pegasus spyware was used to monitor his close associates and family and members after his death. Just a bit that come into my head. Actually, when they get malware, normally by opening a text message onto the phone, that easy, just by opening a text message, it also uploads all the phone numbers like in your phone book, and so they just go and pwn all them as well. Crazy. Corinne Kanimba, the daughter of a Rwandan political dissident, we're seeing a theme here, was targeted by Pegasus. The father is known for his role in saving lives during the Rwanda genocide, and his family believes the surveillance was parts of efforts to silence him. Also, the big thing there was about Mexican journalists and activists, with numerous journalists and human rights activists in Mexico who were also targeted, including a prominent journalist whose phone was infected with the spyware while she was investigating corruption. Crazy. So after I've scared us all, let's see what they say about it and what we can do about it. So the mobile threat hunting feature of iVerify uses malware signature-based detection, heuristics, and machine learning to detect anomalies and signs of spyware infection on iOS and Android devices. For paying customers, the tool regularly, doesn't say how regular that is, checks devices for compromise. The free version, after downloading the app for 99 cents, allows users to generate and submit a diagnostic utility file for analysis once a month, receiving results within hours, it says. Users must provide an address to be contacted if a scan detects spyware. As it did in this 7 that it states that it did. So this quote's really interesting. This is from Ricky Cole, Chief Operating Officer of iVerify, who was a former U.S. National Security Agency analyst. I wonder where all his big brain data come from. I don't know, maybe his big brain. The really fascinating thing is that the people who were targeted were not just journalists and activists, but business leaders, people running commercial enterprises, people in government positions. He says that it looks a lot more like the targeting profile of your average piece of malware and your average APT group than it does the narrative that's been out there that mercenary spyware is being abused to target activists. It's like NSO Group saying, yeah, we do things that like governments and American aligned governments and stuff like that, but they're kind of saying something different here. But are you shocked? I'm not. I will remind you, though, that the party that they've looked at here is 7 at this point. To me, I can't highlight how great this tool appears to be, although I'll tell you in a minute. I am surprised something like this has not come along before for phones. I know most of my friends considering that their phones have malware on them, especially my reporter friends that do interesting stuff. But my top tip, as always, with phone malware is that most commonly, due to the way phones have software protection, that the malware runs in memory. So if you reset your phone, it should disappear and then they'll have to infect you again. Like most, if not all, methods of infection require the user to click on something, like open a message or something. But if anybody knows of any zero-click methods for Android or iPhone, I'd love to know about it. Obviously, for completeness, because we're a real news show, but you can make up your own thoughts, especially if you've read the book. Wired have the following statement from NSO Group. NSO Group sells its products exclusively to vetted US and Israel allied intelligence and law enforcement agencies. Our customers use these technologies daily. That was kind of like a thrown away statement, but it was there, so I said it. Yeah, I bet they do. Now, some of the interesting stuff. iVerify Vice President of Research, Mattis, says that it took significant investment. I'm sure it took NSO Group's significant investment group to make Pegasus for the detection tool, and that it has characteristic traits, and so this is interesting, that make it easier to flag. In the 7 detections, mobile threat hunting caught Pegasus using diagnostic data, shutdown logs, and crash logs. From a little Google this morning, or Copilot or something like that, NSO Group is still active and continues to develop and sell its Pegasus spyware. However, the company has faced significant scrutiny and legal challenges due to the allegations of misuse. Recently, NSO Group admitted to cutting off 10 customers. And according to the book, these customers are paying like 7 figures, some of them. So this is big bucks. And a lot of the people that used to or did work at NSO Group strangely came from them Israeli intelligence units, but that's an aside. So additionally, there's ongoing lawsuits, such as one filed by WhatsApp, have revealed more details about how the spyware has been used. But despite these controversies, NSO Group maintains that it investigates any allegation of misuse and takes action against customers who violate their agreements. So what about my results? Well, I don't know, because I've not had an email, and that was about 9 hours ago. Come on, iVerify, where is it? I'm dying to know. It's like somebody could be listening to me while you're listening to me, and I don't know. But to be fair, that could mean they find nothing and they just don't send out the replies for nothing. But for completeness, I found another article. I dropped a link in the show notes, and it's an article from Tom Guide, if anybody's ever been in that world, which gives a detailed review of the 99-cent app. But Tom also tells us that Apple already looked for this type of malware, and if they find it, they would inform us. I'd love to know if that's happened to anyone. Okay, that's it for me. Twice in a week. Aren't you so lucky? Back to Father Christmas. It's all about Christmas. What's in your sack, Dr. Doug?
Oh, my. Probably a bunch of malware. But, yeah, I get it. Thank you, Aaron. It's been another great year with you working here with us, and we're always happy to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Doug.
Well, I couldn't resist this story. I was going to do something about the Jersey drones, which have now been basically shown to be a combination of shaky video of aircraft flying overhead, probably on their way to land at an airport, some kid flying a drone around to spy on their neighbors, and so on and so forth. But regardless, but I couldn't resist this one. I saw this thing. This thing is iconic. It's as iconic as Doom running on a washing machine. Everybody knows this, I think. So this first came out in 1974, okay? And it was released as an educational endeavor to teach people about, wait for it, the Oregon Trail. And if you don't know what the Oregon Trail was, it was a grueling 19th century trek that was filled with death, disease, and danger in real life. It was an actual thing. And this was one of the first computer games introduced to schools to, I think probably popularize colonialism, because it seems to have a pretty, bad message. But, hey, it's a good idea. But anyway, of course, my school had no computers. I think they still had an abacus in the library or something, and they had no video games. But my uncle had a computer. And the most common cause of death in this became an early meme. You have died of dysentery, which apparently was a pretty common reason to die on the Oregon Trail. But this thing ran on an Apple II computer, which some schools apparently did have, but not mine. My school had football and no need for any of that nerdy pencil neck nonsense. Learn to play a team sport, son, and stay away from them computers. They'll rot your brain. Yeah, I actually got told that. But the earliest versions ran on a computer without a screen even, apparently. And I don't know if it was a spin writer, because we had one of those at the university. and it was literally a printer, and so all the stuff that would have appeared on the screen printed on green bar paper. Yeah, it was crazy, like the most unenvironmental thing you've ever seen. But basically, everybody that had an Apple II ran this thing. It was the first video game that I think I ever saw on an actual personal computer. We had a Pong game at home, but it was also the first video game that actually had a storyline that went with it, and I guess you can still find it if you'd like to play it. I know they have like app versions of it for phones and so forth. I know you can get repos of it on GitHub and so forth. And maybe you want to get it running on a toaster oven or something just for amusement purposes. I think the original was written in BASIC, so you could probably port it over to Rust and compile it so it would run on a modern machine. I'm sure somebody's already done that, but be careful with those repositories, right? I mean, a story comes out about Oregon Trail, a bunch of repositories pop up, people download them and execute them, and yeah, they're full of malware. So be careful, and of course they're a lot more dangerous than TikTok too. So just keep that in mind. We do have shows for the next 2 weeks. They are all commentary shows to close out the year. A couple with Josh, one with Russ Boscheman, our old friend, and Rob from Threat Locker. They're all going to be on. They were really good. We just recorded them a little bit in advance, like last week. So we had them all for you, so you wouldn't have to miss out. And I thought they were pretty good shows. So I will be back with you next year. So happy New Year, and we will see you all there, I hope, on the Security Weekly News.